Let's start at the Tory party conference, where they were hoping that David Cameron would be able to set out his campaign for the next general election. But of course, it's not that easy. The party is making the headlines this morning for all the wrong reasons. And one of our MPs is right at the heart of them. A few minutes ago, I spoke to Andrew Sinclair in Birmingham.
Well, you can't really have a worse start to a party conference. People I've spoken today are spitting blood over Mark Reckless, who's decided to join Douglas Carswell and defect to UKIP. And then when you ask them about Brooks Newmark, they just shake their head in disbelief. Mr. Newmark issued a brief statement last night saying that he was standing down as minister because of today's story in the Sunday Mirror. He asked for privacy for his family and he pledged his continued support to the government. He's told one of my colleagues this morning that he's been very foolish and he's very sorry. And so that brings to an end the very brief career of Mr. Newmark as Minister for the Civil Service. For civil society. He didn't really achieve very much. He did upset quite a few charities, though, earlier this month when he told them to stick to knitting and stay out of politics.
So will he stay on as an MP?
Well, the expectation here is that he will. I mean, this is very embarrassing for him, but he hasn't actually broken any laws or anything.
Our studio guests this morning, George Nobbs, the Labour leader of Norfolk County Council, and Tim Aker, one of our UKIP MEPs. So you've had a couple of defections. Have you got any more coming, do you think?
Well, we'll see, won't we? I mean, we're the
party.
party.
Oh, come on, that's not an answer.
We're the party. Well, we like to spring a few surprises here and there. We're the party that's changing politics. You know, there never used to be any secrets in politics, and what a couple of months we've had. We're going into a series of by-elections now where we're looking to win in Clacton. Hayward and Middleton is certainly scaring the Labour Party. We've got one in Rochester and Stroud. You know, we're re-democratising the country. It's a great time to be in UKIP. More people should come and join us.
But actually, you say you're changing politics, but actually what happened in Clacton was traditional old-style politics. You got rid of your local candidate and stuck in somebody who was an MP defected.
An MP stood on a point of principle, and rather than defect and stay in the Commons, he's letting the people decide. And it's novel. And now Mark Reckless is doing the noble thing, stand down and letting the people decide, and that's what drives UKIP. We want to let the people decide.
George Nobbs, it's not a great start for the Tory party conference,
no,
but
sadly.
in fairness, the Labour party conference wasn't a great success, was it?
I enjoyed it.
It was rather dull.
I watched it on television, and I thought it was quite good. But I must say, to be fair, I think the winner out of the conference season, without any question, is Nigel Farage. I mean, to produce a rabbit out of the hat like that was absolutely brilliant. And let's not be churlish about it. He's done very well.
That is old-style politics, though, isn't it?
Well, I think it's. Well, I think it's a sign that the Conservative Party is imploding. It reminds me actually of the last days of John Major, when in fact then Labour MPs were all defecting to Conservative MPs were defecting to Labour.
Can I ask you just a little bit about what you think the Tories have achieved as far as the roads are concerned? The A11, I know, is a Labour plan, but the Tories have gone ahead and done it.
Yes, they've done the final bit, and that's very, very good, and we're opening it very shortly. But the A47 is essential to the economy of not just Norfolk, the whole of East Anglia. And we just get promise after promise, and you know, perhaps there'll be an announcement.
That's not just a Tory thing, isn't it?
No,
you have promise after promise after promise under the previous Labour administration.
Right. All central governments fail to recognise the importance of East Anglia, and this is another reason why we need some sort of form of devolution, because we know better in East Anglia how to spend money on infrastructure than MPs at Westminster do, and the government departments do, and it's essential.
You want to change politics, do you? You want politics to be very different, like UKIP say?
Well, I think we both are dissatisfied with the way the Conservative government runs this country, and it's London-centric.
Tim Aker, you're going. If you were in power, you would cut taxes. How on earth would you pay for new roads? You can't, can you?
Well, you can. You look at the EU contributions, £55 million a day from the Treasury's own figures. Foreign aid going to 11 billion, we'd substantially reduce that. We would cut it a considerable amount. You've got a very small fraction, a very small fraction.
You're saying 11 billion.
At least 9 billion. At least 9 billion.
Because
a small fraction of that foreign aid budget is actually spent on inoculations and clean water. So we'd keep that. We'd keep the good aid, but the aid that goes missing, why are we doing it? We've got our own problems here at home. So we'd make sure that we would take the tax burden off working people, off the poorest, and make sure we got our priorities right.
Actually,
but look, hang on, there's another issue of long-term planning, because this is one crucial thing with the roads. The Tories said they were going to get immigration down to the tens of thousands. It's now back up to 250,000. How can anyone of any party in government make planning on infrastructure when they don't know how many people are going to come to use the roads. So until you get control of your borders, you can't make any infrastructure planning on roads, on hospitals, on schools.
Well, I want roads for prosperity, not as a means of cutting immigration. I mean, Norfolk...
No, I wasn't saying that. I was saying as a matter of planning. If you've got to make sure you know who are going to use the roads, where the population centres are going to be, so you can make the long-term planning and long-term investment.
Good. All right, let's talk now about the UKIP conference in Doncaster this week, with another Tory MP joining the MP for Clacton by defecting to UKIP. The party wants to show that it can be responsible. It now has more than 100 councillors here in the East. But how are they doing? Andrew Sinclair has been finding out.
In many parts of the region, the UK Independence Party is very much part of local politics. Here in Basildon, a couple of UKIP councillors are meeting with a member of the local residents' association.
We feel that we're open to any opportunist developer who pops up anywhere on the green belt, and that really is a concern to us.
Basildon Council have not got their strategy in place.
With 12 councillors in Basildon, UKIP is now the second largest party here, and they admit it's been a steep learning curve.
We're effectively 12 disparate people who need to start to gel and to blend together and to work out what we're going to do, how we're going to do it. We have a lot of darn good ideas. We're there to represent the views, concerns, wishes and interests of the people.
But at times it's been rather confusing. The party doesn't tell its councillors how to vote, but that meant there was a bit of embarrassment and anger when some of UKIP's councillors in Basildon voted against a UKIP policy to abolish the cabinet system.
We don't have a whip system. That's a double-edged sword. If you actually have a policy, which is a UKIP policy, and you've campaigned on this, then unless you actually have your constituents saying, actually, we don't like that policy, then you should go along with it. Now, I don't think some of the people actually realised that at the time.
The party has a notable presence on several of our authorities. They're part of the Rainbow Coalition running Norfolk County Council. Nigel Farage doesn't seem too worried. He says UKIP councillors are making local politics more relevant.
Most of these UKIP councillors have only been on the councils for a year.
Yes, but being a councillor is an important job.
And my advice to every UKIP councillor was, don't run before you can walk. Find your feet. And you know something? That actually applies to politicians from all parties.
One of the problems, though, is that your councillors are not whipped. So in Basildon, for instance, we see them voting against each other. That's very confusing for the public, isn't it?
Well, I mean, if we're going to introduce the idea that elected people ought to have their own mind on hanging or abortion or whatever, or bypasses or whatever else it is, that's a damn sight healthier than the whipping system we've seen in politics coming from this place, which has frankly made our members of parliament and many of our councillors nothing more than ciphers.
This week, Nigel Farage received a standing ovation as he arrived at a public meeting in Clacton. UKIP say the large turnout is proof that people are prepared to take them seriously. The other parties hope this is all short-lived. UKIP believes the public are looking for something different. They may still be finding their feet, but they believe they're here to stay.
Tim Aker, you really do have to have a policy and stick to it if you're a party, don't you? You can't have everybody just voting as they want.
Well, isn't that incredible that we actually have people who discuss and debate things in their groups and will actually do what their residents want?
That's a good answer,
so,
but you can't...
people are sick of the old politics of party managers whipping their representatives to do what they say, and they all look the same, they all sound the same. With UKIP, it's different. That's why we're getting excellent results in Basildon, all the Southend, Castle Point, Thurrock, elsewhere.
But you will know that if you have a policy and you don't stick to it, you have broken your promise to the people who vote for you.
Well, in reference to the Basildon thing, a majority
of
the Basildon
councillors
councillors voted for it, and I'm sure that when it does come back, that it will go through, that the cabinet system will be scrapped. But this is the point. We're the only party who actually wanted a proper recall mechanism, so that the people, if they see their representative has gone back on their promises, can initiate a by-election. But what we got from the Tories, despite them promising it, was watered down. They say MPs are the ones who've got to judge whether MPs have stepped out of line and broken their promises. It's a complete stitch-up, which is again why people are coming to UKIP.
You have worked with UKIP on Norfolk County Council?
Yes.
quite well.
Well, yes, we have. And obviously we profoundly disagree on national policy, UKIP and I, but we profoundly disagree with other parties, Greens and Liberals, and they with each other. But on Norfolk County Council, we think the important thing is that we should work together for the benefit of the people of Norfolk, and I think we have done so.
It must be very difficult for you to work out how you deal with a party that doesn't have a party mechanism working as far as whipping is concerned.
Yes, it is. It is very difficult, but then the Green group don't have that system either, and the Liberals don't have that system either. Labour Party is only one of the four which actually has a whipping system. But as I say, fortunately, if the issue is quite a simple one, what is the best policy for the people of Norfolk? I think we can just come to that agreement and do it.
It's common sense ideas that will benefit the people, and you've seen in Norfolk how it can work.
Good. Okay. Just very quickly, both of you, on the question of solar farms, where do you stand, Mr. Nobbs?
Well, we're hoping to have one at Coleshall, so I'm in favour.
Yeah. And would people who live nearby have the option of saying to you, no, I don't want it here?
Well, actually, there's been a public meeting and the local people seem to be very much in favour of it, but if they were against it, if they overall against it, we wouldn't go ahead, obviously.
Mr. Aker.
There should be the mechanism for local people to have their say. I think it's ridiculous that we're closing power stations and putting these windmills and solar farms anywhere. It's crackers.
So you disagree?
So you would not have solar panels would not be a part of your policy if you were in government. And what do you say to that?
Well, I think you should be open-minded in these things. Perhaps we can have a talk afterwards, because I think solar farms are a good thing. And obviously you and I don't agree on global warming either. But solar farms, providing they're not offensive to the local people, are a good idea.
And you're not objecting to them on the people's roofs and things like that?
No. But when you look at the fact that we are closing the power stations that provide us with a third of our energy over the next 18 months, no amount of windmills or solar farms are going to be able to compensate for the energy shortages.
Both of you, thank you very much for being with us here.